Welcome. My name is Rabbi David Orlofsky, and this is the Rabbi Orlofsky Show here on what is sometimes a podcast and sometimes not, depending on when you were born. And it is so nice to have everybody back. This is episode 7. We have actually done this now for 7 weeks. This is absolutely incredible for somebody who is as inconsistent as I am in almost everything that I do. And it's an amazing thing. And I just came back from America, literally. I just came back from America. And I am still incredibly jet-lagged. But I just have to take a few minutes to tell you about this trip to America, and I'll explain to you why this is important also for the podcast. But first of all, I did a Shabbos in the Young Israel of Houston with Rabbi Wender, and that was phenomenal. I had the schus of staying with Yaakov Palachuk and his family, and it was just the overall experience was just something so wonderful. We had such a nice turnout. It was just a beautiful Shabbos for everybody who was involved, and I'm speaking certainly for myself. Sunday morning, I did a program with the Bel Air Jewish Center, Rabbi Jackman, and we had an overflow crowd, and I think it was also just a wonderful, wonderful event. I went from there to Scottsdale, Arizona, for Makor, with Rabbi Brumer. We also had an unbelievable event, over 120 people in Scottsdale, Arizona, many of whom had never come to an event before, and it was, again, fantastic, just a great thing. I got to speak to Sister in Flatbush, which is an organization that deals with divorcees, and they said they got such a nice, much larger turnout than usual. And I have to say, when you have an organization for divorcees and you have a very large turnout, it's a little bittersweet, because I'm glad that so many people came to get chizuk, and I'm sorry that there are so many people in this situation. I had the schus to spend Shabbos with Rav Chaim Cohen Saban in Flatbush for the Syrian community. He hosted us, me and my wife, in his home, and him and his wife and his children. It was such an amazing Shabbos. We walked up and down Flatbush to various Batei Knesiot in the Syrian community, and it was such a great chance to get an exposure. I spoke in the 5 towns in Shari Amuna for Chazak, and I spoke in Ezra Academy in Queens for Chazak, and both events were very exciting. I had the schus to participate in the Manjowitz's Simcha in Borough Park at a Sheva Brachos. I don't always get to do that, and that was a big thrill. And I got to speak for the first time in Staten Island. And as I said at the beginning of my talk, I've driven through Staten Island many times on my way to someplace else to speak, and I actually got to speak for the Willowbrook Community Kollel, and it was tremendous. Representative Pollack was organizing it, and a shout out to Sarah Pruff, who helped to organize it, and it was gewaldic. I also had the opportunity to speak in Shalamis, where my granddaughter actually goes to school, and I got to speak to the staff and Mrs. Yarmak, who does absolutely a fabulous job. She called me up and asked me if I would come and speak, and I'd say, Mrs. Yarmak, there are certain people I cannot say no to, and you're one of them, and it was certainly a privilege. And I ended my trip Sunday morning with my old friend and good friend, Rabbi Landsman, in Yeshiva of Central Queens. Got to speak to parents and children. Got to see my nephew Elazar and my great niece, and it was such a tremendous thing. Now, this is interesting, but the main reason I'm bringing this story up is because everywhere I went, people came over to me and said, I'm watching your podcast. And that to me is just amazing that all around the country, people are watching this, and a number of them actually enjoy it. And that's just terrific. It's just such a terrific thing to know that was the reason I started this. I started this to be able to have a kesher with people, all around that I wouldn't normally have a chance to call. And I've been getting many comments and many emails from people asking questions on it, or just giving me chizuk, saying, how nice this is and how wonderful it is. And, I'm glad we're doing this. And, for me, it's a wonderful experience, because this is time I would probably just be using poorly. And instead, I get to use it to be able to speak about interesting things. Some of them have to do with Torah, and to share them with so many people. So thank you all for watching and for listening, whether it's on Torah Anytime or on YouTube, where more and more people have been subscribing. It's nice to see. iTunes or anywhere where you get podcasts. So, Chazak v'amatz. I hope that we continue to do this for a long time to come. All right. One last bit of business, and that is I'm going to be back in America December 14th and 15th in the Aguda of Madison, Rabbi Reisman. What a schus that's going to be. And I'll be speaking at the Malav Malka. So if you're anywhere within flying distance of Brooklyn for that Shabbos, by all means, please come. I'd love to see you. And it'd be wonderful to have you participate in that event. And the Thursday of that week, I think it's December 19th, I'm going to be in the Young Israel of Baal Harbor, and down in Florida. And based on the snowstorm that I got caught in New York on November 15th, mamish the middle of November, a snowstorm, I sat in traffic for 7.5 hours on my way to my nephew's chasana in Muncie. I could not get there, and I wasn't going to give up, even though it was 9:45. I wasn't going to give up, but my brother took the Tappan Zee Bridge. He got within 5 miles of the hall, and he said every road in Muncie was closed. And when I left at 9:45, the George Washington Bridge was still closed. I was able to somehow get off the highway and get back to Long Island. What a nightmare. What a nightmare. In the middle of November, snow. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you in Florida. If anybody else would like to see me in Florida, I'm certainly available. Yeah, or for that matter, the Bahamas, Puerto Rico, any of the Caribbean islands would work out just fine for me. All right. Enough business. Let's talk a little Torah. Parshas Vayishlach, an action-packed parsha. I'm going to throw out an idea that I haven't developed, because, what's nice is I get so many comments. It could be that somebody speaks about this and I just haven't come across it, which is, not unusual. But I've always felt like, people who know everything, I feel so bad for them, because they never have the thrill that I do of like stumbling on a Rashi that you either never saw or forgot, you know what I mean? And, when I go to shiurim with people, if they don't know everything, I don't know who caught them on it, And, but I feel like there is an integral relationship between the parshas Vayishlach, B'Shalach, and Shlach. I've been developing some ideas why that might be, but I just feel like it can't be by coincidence that all of these have the word Shlach in it. That's just my feeling. Yeah. I feel the same thing with certain other parshios that seem to have this kind of a sense to it. Vayera, Ve'era, I don't know. We can argue. I can come up with some connections and things like that. Nothing that, as we used to say back in Chavetz Chaim, is muchrach. You understand that? It's going to stand up the test of time. But anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. That's not what I'm speaking about. It's just what I wanted to throw out there. I wanted to speak about one of the characters in Tanakh whose life is fascinating and not necessarily in the best way. And that is Yaakov's daughter, Dinah. Now, maybe it's because I have 8 daughters that I feel a certain, I'm drawn to the story of daughters. But as far as we know, this is the only Jewish daughter that we encounter. Yeah. Avraham, according to the Medrash, had a daughter called Bakol. Yeah, and that's an interesting story. And the Mefarshim, there's a Ramban. The Mefarshim discuss about the role about this young lady. But the only one that we actually find in the Torah spelled out until the first one anyway, it's spelled out, is Dinah. And Dinah has a interesting trajectory, not necessarily one of the more positive stories. Yeah. And Leah has 6 boys. Leah has 6 boys. And she's pregnant the 7th time. And she's worried. It's interesting. She's worried she's going to have another boy. And she is concerned that if so, since Bilhah and Zilpah already each have 2 sons, then her sister Rachel will only have 1 son. She'll have 7. And even though it was so important to them to be able to have the Shvatim, there was this drive to have the Shvatim. Since I'm going to be speaking at Rabbi Reisman Shul, I'm going to throw out an idea I heard from Rabbi Reisman years and years ago that made a dramatic impression on me that I want to share with you. There was a bracha given when the Aron was being brought up and it got to Kiryat Ye'arim. So there was the whole mice that happened over there, and Uzzah was killed, and they stopped and they left it. And the fellow who was watching the Aron in his house, there was a special bracha. And because of this special bracha, David HaMelech decided to go back and finish the job of bringing the Aron up. His 5 daughters and his wife each had 6 children. Each one of them gave birth to sextuplets. And so when David heard this bracha, he decided, we really have to bring it up. Reisman said, 36 babies at the same time in that house. How many people would look at that today as a bracha? My daughter has twins. And there was this comedian, he said on a show, he says, me and my wife, we just had twins. And people start applauding. He says, those are the single people. The married people are like, wow, dodge that bullet. It's very hard. You have twins, it's very hard. I see for my daughter. You're up the whole night. If you can get them both on the same exact schedule, but why would any child have that level of consideration for a parent? That's just not what they're there for. You understand? So it's like you finish with one, you start with the other one. This one's crying. This one you have to change a diaper. This one you have to feed them. There's no day. There's no day. That's with 2 babies. Yeah, triplets. Who can even imagine triplets? 36 babies in the house. And as Rabbi Reisman points out, this was before disposable diapers. Understand? Do you see that as a bracha? Yeah. As I traveled around the country, so last Motzi Shabbos, I had the schus, Tav Malov Malka, and also invited was Rabbi Trump from the Young's of Lawrence Cedarhurst. And he was asked, what would you say are the 3 biggest problems that are confronting the Frum society right now? And one of them he mentioned was the tuition crisis. And I met over a dozen families who said to me, I wish we could have more children, but we can't afford the tuition. There's something seriously wrong with a Torah educational system that discourages people from having children. There's going to be something wrong with that. And I don't stand in judgment of anybody, chas v'shalom. But do you realize that this is a situation that demands some sort of response from the Frum community? If our tuitions are such that they discourage Jewish people from wanting to have more children, there's something seriously wrong. I mean, it's mamish, something seriously wrong. Yeah. as I've mentioned many times, the only reason I have this podcast is because this is the only chance I have to rant and rave about things that are bothering me. That's why there were two different suggestions for titles, Dave's Raves and Dave's Rants, and I said, I don't rave and rant. Okay, maybe sometimes. Well, I'm going to stand on my soapbox now. What's the solution? Yeah. Dave Barry, who was a humorist, out of the Miami Herald, he once said, if you're not part of the solution, so usually you say it's part of the problem. If you're not part of the solution, you're a journalist. I don't have the power to be able to solve problems, but those of you who do, and I know there are some real chashuva people who are listening to this, we got to do something. There is enough money and resources in the frum community to solve anything if we want to. And maybe we should be putting together some kind of a super fund to underwrite tuition for everybody and just encourage people to want to, if we only give the tuition relief to people who literally can't afford it, then you're saying the people who can afford it, who are, nice, responsible people, and they say, I don't want to take a scholarship. So their only option then is not to have any children because, they can't afford the tuition. So we got to do something. Yeah. I'm just throwing that out there. But they want to have children. And so Leah is pregnant now with a shevet. Let's macha cheshbon. 10 of them had already been born, right? She had 6. Bilhah had 2. Zilpah had 2. Who's number 11? Yosef. It's interesting. She was mistama, pregnant with Yosef. She davened that she turned into a girl. And that became Dina. So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says an amazing idea. He says the wires were crossed to a certain extent. Rabbi Yaakov can say this. I wouldn't say this on my own. Yeah, he says that's why Dina is a yitzanis. A yitzanis is seen as a male thing to do, and I'm not getting into any social norms now or role of women or any of those kind of things. It's just a girl is lashon bas from lashon bayis. They tend to be more in the house. A man goes out. Ben is lashon bona, goes out and builds and does something. It's seen in that context. Again, I'm not getting involved now with any just a simple idea that a yitzanis, at least in the Torah, is seen as more of a male thing to do. And Dina is a yitzanis. She's seen as a yitzanis because it says Rabbi Yaakov, that's a certain male quality. And what do we see by Yosef? Yosef is fixing up his hair, is fixing up his eyes. Something that's seen as more of a female trait. And Rabbi Yaakov says it's because of the fact that she was pregnant with Yosef and she turned it into Dina. So there was a certain switch that took place. An astounding concept. But she had this Mesiras Nefesh that she decided she was going to have a girl. Why? So that her sister should not be hurt. And so her decision to have Dina was an act of selflessness. And what was the result of that? So Dina gets kidnapped and raped. And the brothers destroy the city of Shechem in the process of getting her back. And as a result of that, the nations rise up all around and attack Yaakov and his sons. They have to have this big war in order to be able to fight their way out. And Dina herself will not leave unless Shimon promises to marry his sister. And there's this sense of, there's this expression, no good deed goes unpunished. You do something nice, you'll end up paying for it. Yeah. So try to help people, and what ends up happening. And unfortunately, there's a lot of source material that would seem to suggest people go out and do nice things, and the result doesn't work out too well. So here Leah was nice enough to be able to have a daughter. And as I mentioned, the first Jewish daughter who's reported in all of Tanakh, and what's the results? The results don't work out so well. It doesn't work out so well. Rabbeis machshavos b'lev ish v'atzas Hashem hisakum. Atzas Hashem li'olam tamod. Machshavos libo l'dovidor. When I was growing up, that was a song. But the concept remains essential. You cannot understand anything if you're looking at it in the immediate. And we are, unfortunately, in an age where people have very little patience. I saw a sign once that said, God grant me patience and give it to me now. People can't wait. Instant messaging. You write somebody, if they don't write you back right away, then you write back in capitals. I was in America. I was actually doing stuff. Somebody here in Israel sends me an email. Would such and such be okay? A whole thing like this. It was a WhatsApp, a whole long WhatsApp. And I happened to be speaking. And he writes back like 5 minutes later, oh, you're not answering, so I guess, So I finally answered it back. I said, I can't answer every WhatsApp, email, message as it comes in. Sometimes I need a little time. And he was very surprised. I understand this because most conversations I have with people today are by looking at the top of their head as they're looking down at their phone, answering an email or WhatsApp or a message, and they're of the generation where they go like this. You know what I mean? I would sometimes get a message and I would write a response, and it would take me 5 minutes to put it together. I'd send it off. And 10 seconds later, I get a 3-page response. How is this even possible? It's not even possible. There's a generation today that has instance. There's no chance. So if you want to understand what happened over here with Dina and with Leah and with on the second, it doesn't make any sense. Machshavos libo l'dovidor. Dina has a daughter, Osnas. And Osnas goes down to Egypt and got caught up in the excitement as Yosef, now known as Tzaftas Parneach, would ride in his chariot. All the girls would throw their jewelry. And as the jewelry is falling, something catches him out of the corner of his eye and he sees Beis Yaakov. He says, there's a Beis Yaakov girl here. I didn't even know. Beis Yaakov of Goshen. I didn't even know there was one around. Yeah? Looks into it, finds out she's Taka from Beis Yaakov, and she marries her. And has 2 children. And from that relationship come Ephraim and Menashe, who become 2 Shvatim. Yeah, there was sort of like 13 Shvatim. And the extra Shevet came about in the schus of Leah and Dina. It came about through that relationship. So Leah gave up, so to speak, the extra shevet, and yet she got the extra shevet back. But you have to have a perspective. There's a medrash where Moshe Rabbeinu, and there's a lot of different Gemaras and Midrashim, where Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to understand Tzaddik V'Ralei. He's trying to understand how things in this world work. Yeah. And he sees this guy come to the well, and he drops his money. He sees a second guy come to the well, finds the money, takes the money, and leaves. A third guy comes to the well. The first guy comes back and says, where's my money? He says, I didn't see your money. Yeah. He says, you're lying to me, you thief, and he kills him. And Moshe watches this whole scene unfold. I can't understand it. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you're not going to understand the ways of Hashem. There's certain things you're just not going to understand. And he presses him. He says, okay. Yeah. The first guy's father stole money from the second guy's father. So I had to get that money back from the first guy to the second guy. Yeah. The third guy killed the first guy's father, so the first guy comes over and kills the third guy. Right? You're looking at it just at the moment. Or as the Chavetz Chaim says, a person comes to shul on a Shabbos and he says to the Gabbai, you don't know what you're doing. You didn't give the Rav an Aliyah. You didn't give the Gevir sitting up front an Aliyah. You didn't give the... He says, I gave them last week. You're walking in here for one Shabbos and you think you understand everything that goes on in the shul. You don't. There's a lot of different details that go on. There's a lot of things that are or outside of what you can see just by looking in at this moment. There's more to the picture. So we look at a story like Dina, and if we just look at it in context, it's a big problem. Big problem. Most of us don't have patience. Most of us don't have patience. I have a daughter who's very smart and a very good girl. And she went and applied to a high school in Yerushalayim that was not as good as the level that she was on. But her sisters had went there and she felt, listen, it's a warm place. My sisters went there. I'll go there anyway. Even though it wasn't on the level for where she was intellectually. And she applied there. It was the only place she applied. And after the deadline, she was turned down. Always after the deadline. Now, I was very surprised because I had a personal relationship with the head of the seminary, of the seminar, they call it here, the high school, head of the seminar. I had spoken in the high school. I had donated money to the high school. To me, it was sort of a no-brainer, I spoke to him. He says, no, this can't be. And he speaks to the people in charge, and for whatever reason, they said no. No. And we're putting our foot down, and nothing to talk about. So the only place that was willing to take her was a high school that had a very not good reputation. So the people in the school, of her high school, said, listen, we really wanted you to go to this better high school. And we're going to now use all of our influence, here we call it protexia, to try to get you in. So she says to me, Abba, what do I do? Do I go to the high school that's not so good, and I know that I'll get in? Do I try to wait and see if you can pressure your friend in the high school I was going to go to so that I can go there? Or should I go with my school and try to get into this better high school? What does Hashem want from me? And I said, when it's all over, I'll tell you what the siyata d'shmaya is. Because I don't know. I'm in the middle of the process. I can't tell you in the middle of the process. And that's why when Moshe Rabbeinu says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I want to see you, Hashem says, well, you can't see my front, you can see my back. And he shows him his back, and the Gemara says he's wearing the knot of his tefillin. He sees the knot of his tefillin. So you can't see Hashem's front, you can see his back. What does that mean? And Hashem wears tefillin, it's a very, very big pair of tefillin, What's going on here? So the pshat is, Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to understand why events are happening. When I see something bad happening, why is it happening? Hashem says, you won't see the front, you'll see the back. After it's over, you'll look back and understand it and appreciate it. But you can't understand events as they're unfolding. Wait. Patience. And that's why Rabbi Moshe Shapiro said he showed him the back of the tefillin, the knot. Because when you see there's two straps in the front, you don't know where they're coming from until you see the knot in the back. You have to go to the source. And until you get to the source, you don't understand what's happening. So there are a lot of things in our lives which don't make sense to us now. And I can't always explain it in the process. People come to me and say, why is this happening to me? I can't always tell you. When it's all over, I'll tell you what the siyata d'shmaya was. And afterwards, I was able to see the siyata d'shmaya because had she gone to this regular high school, she wouldn't have been challenged where her sisters went. And so she went to this much better high school, and she got to see how her principal and assistant principal and the high school placement person and everybody, her mechanechet, everybody pushed to get her in so that she saw how much they all cared about her. It was tremendous siyata d'shmaya. But you couldn't see it when it was happening. Sometimes we need patience. Yeah. And if we have patience, I was once speaking to a group of women. We were doing midos. So I said, which midah do you want to do first? And they said, savlonus. I said, you'll have to wait till we get to that. Because some things you have to wait. When Reb Chaim Oizer, they wanted to make him the Rav of Vilna, they said, but you're only 17 years old. And he says, I know it's a problem, but some problems are solved with time. Sometimes we need a little patience and a little time to be able to see how things are going and where they're going to go and what the Ratzon Hashem is and the Mirza Hashem. every one of us can see the Yad Hashem in our lives. We can see it now, in the short term. And as the story unfolds, you'll get to see where the Siyata Shmaya was, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was helping you go. And Mirza Hashem will have the schus and the koyach to be able to have the chizik, to be able to withstand the nisyonis that come our ways, and the strength to be able to become the people we're supposed to become.